way that the teams can win in the NSL is by sinking all the others' larger ships, right? So there's going to be the following amount of ships. There's going to be a 13-gun ship, which is going to be the biggest ship that you see on the field today. There are going to be 8 guns, which are the medium size, the other 4 ships that you'll see behind the 13-gun. Those are 8 guns. The very small ships are called gunboats and rocket boats. You'll see 2 of those active at any given time. They are not critical to victory and defeat insofar as if they are sunk, that doesn't contribute to the win or loss of a team. But the 13-gun and the 8 guns, the objective for each team is to sink those ships. Once those ships are all sunk on one team, the battle is over. Otherwise, it'll last for 30 minutes, and the team that sinks the most enemy ships will win. Warble, we have a pretty extraordinary amount of data that we're going to be collecting from these battles, though we don't have them yet because today is the first battle and it's the first data we're collecting. But why don't you tell the viewers what it is that we are going to look forward to providing them in the future regarding what the performance of each of the players are going to be?
Well, in the NSL, there are different things we can track, of course, about the game Holdfast itself provides us a certain toolkit where we can extract certain data about individual player performance. That is, at the most basic, that is if the player won or lost a round they participated in, how many kills they got in that round, how often they died, and how many in-game points they got. You get points in-game for different things, for killing the enemy players and for damaging enemy structures. In this case, that is ships. That's the most common ways to get points here. So we can see that. And from that, we can extract all kinds of things. We can get a win rate once the player has played several games. We can get things like a average or a mean, well, that's the same thing really, or a median score rating per round that they played, or a ratio of kills to deaths for this individual player. And we can also then zoom out a bit, if you will, and collect that data for all the players of one team, or a regiment, but here more fittingly a team, so that we can say, oh well, the average player, for example, of Kraken, let's say, has get so and so many kills in a round, and then in a future round where they play again, we can basically compare their performance to past performances. And to that end, on our website xnaval.com, there will be a public list of all the players that participate in the NSL with some stats about each individual player visible publicly there. At the moment it's empty because we haven't had any matches yet, but this will be updated weekly after the matches.
Excellent. So a little bit more about the composition of the teams. As I mentioned earlier, the teams that you're going to see here are sometimes one regiment, like I told you, that's like a gaming clan, or they are multiple regiments who band together in a sort of federated way to create a larger team. So today, again, we have the Krakens, who are going to be the British team. They are a single regiment. They are the KRN KraKrn. KRN KraKrn sounds like two things, but the KRN is the King's Royal Navy. That is a subsidiary of the KRA, which is the King's Royal Army. They are one regiment. Guys from the KRA are part of the KRN, and that's their naval wing. They're a very large regiment, one of the oldest regiments in Holdfast, one of the largest regiments in Holdfast.
Yeah, and, I think the largest, right?
I think probably the largest by number and by activity, by what they bring to events. I don't know any other that that can boast to be too much larger than them. Very much an institution of Holdfast. Number 22 and number 16, while they are not one of the oldest, largest regiments or anything like that, they do have a long history of cooperating together. They are two different regiments, and they've combined to be the SCP-38 team that you're going to see on the French today. They have competed before and to excellent results. So though we are broadcasting this particular game and this particular NSL competitive series, we've had competitive series before that have not been broadcast. They have done exceptionally well in any of those competitions, as have the KRA KRN. As a matter of fact, we're really starting these battles, Warble, with two of the best teams that I can imagine in this league. There are a total of, I believe, 8 teams registered for the league right now. So that's what you're going to get to see mixing and matching in these battles with each other.
Yes. So just let's say from our personal experience, of course, in our own regiment in X, we competed in the last naval competition kind of that there was, and the final went down to the KRN versus us, and we very narrowly beat them. So
I think it was literally by
yeah,
a single shot. I think
yeah,
the difference was
yeah,
a single
yeah.
shot.
So they are, yeah, up there.
Very much up
Definitely.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, and you talked a bit about the team composition, but it will not only be these two teams that make
Very
up
true.
the two fleets today, right? There's more crew than just the Kraken and the SCP-38.
Yes. So we have utilized a system for mercenaries to participate in both of these teams. One of the goals for the NSL was to have very large teams operating large fleets. And to still have them centrally directed. And the way that we're doing that is all of the other teams in the league are donating mercenaries. Mercenaries are just players who are not part of that core team, but are fighting for that core team specifically this week. As we go forward, we'll be organizing the mercenaries in certain ways. The highest performing mercenaries we're going to divide up on either team. We're going to try and make sure that the really high performing players are not all lumped on to one team when they sign up as mercenaries. Nonetheless, yes, I'd say probably about half of each of these teams are not actually the core teams themselves. They are mercenaries serving under the direction of those teams. The
Yeah, that
way
is
that, yeah, go ahead.
to bolster numbers, right? Basically,
Yes.
for people who are not that familiar maybe with the game Holdfast Nations at War, some of you might be watching. Hello,
Hey.
glad you're here. The thing is that these ships take a team effort to effectively fight with. So you have a captain, of course, and then you have gunners and maybe some other crew on board. But basically, an experienced player can man at the most really 2 broadside cannons on one of these ships. But better it would be just the one. So you would have something like 5 to 8 players on a 13 gun minimum, and like, yeah, probably 5 on an 8 gun, and then 2 on a gunboat and 3 or 4 on a rocket boat. Somewhere there, right? So, and even larger regiments like the KRN can't really bring like 40 players to this match consistently, or to these matches. So yeah, Kraken will bring their core team, and then mercenaries will be fitted to them. And Merc, you mentioned that in the future, mercenaries will be basically picked by skill to balance out, or not to balance out the teams, but to balance out the mercenaries, so that both teams get an equal quality, basically, roster of mercenaries.
That's right.
And well, although we haven't had any matches before today, we still have done that to the best of our abilities, basically divide the mercenaries up equally by skill on the two teams. And we've done that with data that we have collected from our private regimental events, in which many of these players also participate from the past month. And it may happen that throughout the course of this match today, when we mention individual players, I might try to pull up some data if they played in our regimental events, and yeah, try to include that. So of course it's not representative of their actual performance in the NSL, but maybe it hints a bit at how they are at Naval overall.
Yeah. So, and this is the magic of having Warble here. Both Warble and I represent X, which is Merc's pirate fleet. We are a naval-focused regiment in Holdfast. We are the primary hosts of this, but we are not the only hosts of this today. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the great things about having Warble here is he is our master statistician. He has information on basically every player who has played in the regimental events that we host, the weekly naval battles that we host with other regiments, and through that, and based off of the systems of data analytics that he has developed for that, we will be using that to give you guys the benefit of our experience and our understanding about how each of these individuals play, how the teams play, and so on and so forth. I mentioned earlier that we are not the only ones who are hosting today. We also have a control room and correspondents that you're going to be hearing from today. These are guys who are waiting on standby. They will be embedded on the ships. Their goal and their job is to help us to understand what is happening on the ground. So today you're not only going to be hearing what Warble and I think of things, but we're also going to tune in to watch the actual views of these guys on the ships, and you'll get to see fighting from the actual deck of the ships themselves. When we start the round, I'm probably going to go around and have each one of them introduce themselves and tell you what ship that they're on. So control room, be ready for that. And what we'll do is, again, just get a preview of the view you will be seeing. These battles are going to be pretty long and pretty strong. And by that, I mean a normal battle in Holdfast is going to take, you know, a certain amount of time. Let me jump in here. Free roam. It's going to take, you know, usually they take maybe 10, 15 minutes. These battles will last hopefully more like the 15, 20 minutes. And specifically because the ships are going to have higher HP than normal. They're going to have a little bit slower of a propulsion. The wind speed basically is a little different, a little slower.
I mean, we are in a big arena, so that's not.
And there's a huge arena. Yeah. So we're going to have a little time as the ships are taking off to just go and speak to each of our correspondents briefly, just for a second. Introduce yourselves, correspondents. Tell us what ship you're on, and then we'll come back to you later for some commentary as the battle goes forth. So I'm going to try and figure out which is on which side here. So we have, as you can see, those little flags hanging off the back of the ship. What I'm zoomed in on right now is the French
I don't think
fleet.
we can see it yet, Merc.
Oh, you can't see? All right.
You can now.
Well, if you can't, okay. So this is what I'm zoomed in on is the French fleet. The French fleet here on the left of this big arena that I'm spectating over. This is going to be the French fleet. You're going to be looking at this to see the performance of the SCP-38 team and their mercenaries. On the other side, we have the British team. As you can see, they're color-coded for your viewing ease. The British team is going to be the KRN Krakens. As you can see, the yellow ship that you're looking at right now is the 13 gun. The red 8 guns are those smaller 8 guns, and you'll see the little gunboats and rocket boats strewn between. Again, on the same side, you will see that the SCP-38's flagship, the 13 gun, is red. Its 8 guns are green.
Correspondence, right. Sailors for now.
As we get organized, we will talk to our correspondents, but they're just loading in right now to the game. So while we're sitting here, Warble, tell me a little bit about how you think today is going to go. We have 2 pretty experienced naval teams. Do you have a favorite for today?
Well, I think it would be a bit unfair of me to, say that right now. I can say that I know a lot more about the KRN, basically, so the Kraken team, just by dint of having played alongside them for a bit and even having organized events alongside them, which I haven't done with No.16 or No.22. But I can't really speak to their skill in this battle. What I do know, or what I suppose might happen, just based on basically the personalities of their captains, as far as I know, is that the Kraken team might try to be quite aggressive and utilize boarding. That's my hunch. I heard the word axe crazy being thrown around. For people who don't know, there is a carpenter class in this game who is carrying a big axe and who can actually damage enemy ships by chopping them, but you of course need to get very close and board them for that to happen.
Great. Well, I look forward to it. Boarding action is something that it's not as viable in the base game itself. Ships tend to sink under concentrated direct fire very quickly in the holdfast sort of regular game. And so it's somewhat important for us. That's why we increased the ship HP. We slowed everything down a little bit. The goal was to make it easier to do more complicated maneuvers, easier for ships to close the distance without being sunk immediately. So that's something that we're looking at here. Now, I am hearing that we are having a few technical difficulties with maybe people spawning in properly. So we're just delaying just ever so slightly to make sure that everybody is able to get in on these ships. That's what the delay is. So while we're on this delay, I want to give a little shout out that I wanted to give. I know that we have a few viewers to the stream, but there's one particular viewer that I was really delighted to hear that we were going to be hearing from today, or we were going to be viewing today, and that is Shadow's mother, who I believe he told us your name is Lillian. So if your name is Lillian and you're Shadow's mom, thanks so much for watching today. We're really touched that we've got some family members watch today. I hope that we can get to the battle very quickly to give you a good show today. And your boy is one of our very favorite people in X. Shadow is a beloved member of our crew and a very talented cannoneer. So I hope that he does your family proud today. And thanks so much for watching. And thanks to everybody who is watching. We're going to try and get this sorted out very quickly. Warble, I think maybe what we can do why don't we, if you want to take them a little bit through some of the particulars of the various ships and talk about a little bit about their play style, I'm going to bounce out real quick and just make sure that everything is going according to plan.
Will do. Okay, yeah. I'll have my camera on these ships here and talk a bit.
Yeah, I'll keep my camera on. I'm just going to mute myself real quickly.
All right. Right, esteemed viewers here. Oop, we are currently restarting the map.
He's fixed it and he's just rotating.
Right, so we already told you which kinds of ships you will be seeing in this league, which is the 13-gun brig sloop, the 8-gun schooner, the gunboat, and the rocket boat, and they all have different kinds of weapons equipped on them. So the 13-gun brig sloop is the biggest ship, and there will only be one on each team as a flagship. And this ship is called a 13-gun because it has a total of 13 cannons on it, which is 6 cannons per broadside and 1 carronade in the bow, which can turn more than 180 degrees, so it can basically shoot everything that is forward of that ship. It is quite beefy, so it can take quite a beating, but the cannons are still vulnerable to direct hits and may explode. It has 3 masts, and it has fighting tops, which you can climb up into and shoot down with a musket. The backbone of these fleets are the 8-gun schooners. They have 2 masts, and they are called 8 guns because they have 4 broadside cannons on each side. So 8 in total. They have also smaller cannons than the 13 gunners, so they do less damage with each shot. They're also more fragile, though, as said, in this league here, we have increased their health points a little bit to make the fighting more engaging and them not being immediately sunk. They also have a total of 8 swivel guns on their railing, which are short-range little cannons that you can either shoot little cannonballs from or grape shot like a giant shotgun. And these are very short range, but have a wide arc of fire that they can shoot into. And they are primarily used or useful against boarding actions or against small boats that come close by. Yeah, and then we have these small boats. So there's the gunboat, which has a single cannon fixed in its bow, so you have to aim this cannon by aiming the entire boat directly at the enemy, which makes it quite predictable in its movements in a way. And it also has 1 swivel gun on each broadside. And then there is the rocket boat, which also has these 2 swivel cannons, but then it has a double rocket launcher in its bow, which also aims straight ahead. But you can, of course, adjust the elevation of the rockets.
All sail has been given.
And all right, I just now see we have all sail.
Yes, we have all sail. So the battle begins. So we have a little bit of a different ship color than what I introduced earlier. So it seems that we have, for the British team, we have a white flagship. The white flagship is going to be its 13 gunner, and it's going to have red 8 guns and probably red gunboats as well.
Yes.
Again, the French is going to have a red flagship, and it's going to have green 8 guns. So that's going to help you to identify what ship, and probably green gunboats as well. So that's going to help you to identify what ships that we're looking at any given time. While we're doing this, I just want to quickly introduce who we're going to have on the ships. Control room, are those the correspondence that you listed earlier still accurate to who's going to be on which ship?
They should be. We're going to go to Link first.
I've got a yes. So we're going to go to Link first on the British 13 gun. That is the white ship. Please, Link, say hello to the audience, and I hope that we will get to talk to you quite a bit today.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Link Nato. I'm going to be our correspondent on the English 13 gun. Let me say it's a great day for naval, a great day for sailing. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks so much, Link. Why don't we jump over to Mika on the French 13 gun? After that, we'll get a little introduction from Mika, who's going to be our correspondent on the French flagship.
Go for Mika.
Good day, everybody. I'm Mika, and today I will be watching over the French 13 gunner. Let's hope we get some great shots together today.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Mika. Let's go to the British team again, which I believe we have Warcrime on the first of the British 8 guns. Is that correct?
Warcrime, yeah.
Hello, viewers. Welcome to the battle. This is Warcrime on the British Magpie.
Excellent. Thank you, Warcrime. And then we have Safe on the first French 8-gun. Safe, say hello to our audience.
Hello, viewers. I am Safe aboard the French 8-gun Renard.
All right. And then we have Supple, who is also one of our correspondents. He's going to be roaming about the rest of the 8-gun ships. Supple, I don't know where you are right now, but I'd love for you to say hello to our audience.
Hello, everyone. I am on the HMS Jackdaw, the 3rd British 8-gun. And yeah, we'll be jumping around the other 8-guns for the remainder of the match.
Excellent. Well, you let us know if you guys have anything interesting to report, and our control room director will let us know that you've got something to say. Warble, what do you take of this opening here?
Well, I can definitely see that the British fleet, the Kraken fleet, is formed up in a very neat battle line with the flagship ahead and all 4 8-gunners following like ducklings. And behind that, I see that they have taken out both the gunboats out of their spawn. They have not taken any 13 guns. They have taken both gunboats who are staying at the rear of their fleet at this moment, and they're moving to the southwest. Do we know which direction the wind is?
When you say 13 guns, you mean rocket boats, correct? Yes?
Sorry, yes. They haven't taken any rocket boats.
That's something very interesting because, you know, the interesting part of this league is that the teams get to choose which of the smallest boats that they take out. They only get to take out 2 at a time, and the rest of them are left in spawn. And when one of them sinks, they could take out a different one. And I was wondering if they would choose the rocket boats or the gunboats first, but it seems like the gunboats first is the strategy. Do you find that is that the case for the other team as well?
No, the other team, the SCP-38, have taken out both rocket boats and no gunboats, and these rocket boats are moving on their own, well, the 2 of them together, to the southeast, so in a course heading for the Kraken fleet, while the capital ships of the SCP team are also forming a bit more of a ragged battle line with the flagship in front and heading due east, so not, well, basically straight out of spawn and separated from their 2 little boats, which is, well, quite something. And I see the broadside cannons have started firing.
They have. So we're probably getting some of the first registered hits here. I will occasionally, if you are, I'm not sure if we're watching my screen right now, but if we are, I will occasionally tab over to the players' scores, and you'll be able to see through the scores who has landed some shots. I'm going to show the player scores right now, and you can see that, no, it doesn't look like, oh yes, it does. It looks like somebody on the SCP-38 has gotten a hit. You see that 45 under the S column there. Now, Cameron from the KRN has also gotten a hit. So let's take a look at what we're doing. It seems that the capital ships are exchanging fire. The red SCP-38 flagship is keeping a little bit of distance while its 8 guns are staying a little closer to the enemy fleet. Now that's because of the difference in the ranges of the ships. The 13 guns have a lot more range to work with, while the 8 guns are a lot shorter range. You can also see that the rocket boats are beginning to fire on the white flagship of the Krakens, the KRN Krakrns. That white flagship. Yeah, we do have hits, and you can see on the kill feed that those are landing. This is a very interesting opening strategy. Now, those rocket boats are probably not going to survive for very long. As soon as those larger ships get any kind of rotation on those rocket ships, you will see that they will be taken out very quickly. But it looks like that the Kraken's white flagship is taking significant hits very early on in the battle.
It has lost its carronade, Merc.
Wow. So the carronade being the cannon at the very front of the ship, carronade has an extraordinary range of rotation, and it has the furthest range of any cannon on that ship. To lose that early in the battle is a huge loss.
Those rocket boats are just passing through the fleet.
They are unchecked. That is amazing. Wow. Really kudos to the rocket boat teams on the SCP-38s. I did not expect that they would last any kind of time, and it looks like one of them has just sunk. Yes, it has just sunk one of them. But even to get that kind of damage early in the game is a huge victory. Now, it looks like the SCP-38's fleet is doing a sort of hook left. They're basically trying to create more distance here. That last 8 gun that you're seeing taking a lot of that concentrated fire, that last green 8 gun is probably going to take the worst of this. They may be sacrificing that ship to get the rest of their fleet in a good position. I want to just make sure that the control room is off of my screen right now, because I want to get into a way where we can see the ship HPs, and I'm going to respawn. So just make sure we're on some different ship right now, not on my screen.
On Mika.
All right. Let's see if there's anywhere I could slip in really quick. All right.
Well, while we're watching that anyway, I would like to ask, how is the feeling on the French flagship at the moment, Mika?
Absolutely.
What do you think?
The feeling is high that some of the crewmates already succeed in sniping on a cannon, celebrating that. The ship has taken minimal damage so far, and it's excited to engage on the enemy again.
Yeah,
Right.
I would get that feeling. The enemy, the Kraken flagship really got beating by the rocket boats there. So I think they probably were a bit distracted, and so the SCP flagship here got the better of it, right?
So
yeah,
I've got the ship HPs up on my screen right now. We can definitely see. The funny little quirk of Holdfast. Sometimes the ship HPs underneath the team are not that team's ship HP. Sometimes they're flip-flopped and they're reversed, but usually by deduction, we can figure out which team is which. Now, we know that the SCP-38s sent their rocket boats in very aggressively. And if you can see on the screen, that means that the ship HPs of the team are under the team flag that you can see there. As you can see, those two blackened out rocket boats, those are the emblems of the rocket boats that were sunk. The SCP-38 threw them at the enemy immediately. We have a very interesting sort of overall tactical situation going on here. The white Kraken flagship is basically getting a great positioning here on the SCP-38's red flagship. It is doing something called crossing the T. Now, it may not get a perfect cross of the T, but virtually it is getting something very similar right now. A cross of the T is when one ship passes in front of another ship, passes and crosses the T as though the ship that is attacking is the cross on the top of the T, and the ship that is being attacked is the line that leads up to the cross at the top of the T. And as you can see here, the white flagship is cutting directly in front of the red flagship. This is a horrible situation to be in if you are that red flagship, because you are taking shots, but you are not entirely able to return those shots. So you are taking damage, but you are not necessarily able to give that damage back. They are getting some shots, but as you can see, it is a very, very bad position. And it seems that the leader of the white flagship is pressing that advantage as much as possible, to the point where these ships may actually ram each other. So we definitely want to get a sight in on those two flagships to see what happens when these two connect with one another, and what kind of battle is going to happen there.
That is a big moment. Their ships crash together, and also the SCP rocket boat, fresh out of spawn, is behind the Kraken flagship, behind the white flagship here too. So it's not all one-sided. And now they are broadside to broadside, and I do see there is melee ensuing. There's kills with sabers and bayonets and muskets.
Why don't we get a word from Link on the British flagship? Tell us what you're seeing there, Link.
Well, cans have pretty much been all but abandoned for sake of melee combat at the moment. I think our British fleet here started out very jovially, got a rude awakening when that first rocket ship barrage came in, and have really tightened themselves up and became very serious on the game here, and the results show with this last maneuver.
Excellent. And why don't we switch over to the other flagship and get the same report from Mika?
The French 13 gunner lost its completely port side, but they are taking good advantage on the boarding attempt. As you can see, the battle is enraging now on the British flagship.
Unbelievable. Now I will report to you. Why don't we pull back to the overview? Because while those two ships are in basically a melee duel to the death, the 8 guns are in their own sort of battle. So we're going to switch over to Safe on the first. We're going to go to Supple. We've got Supple. Tell us what ship you're on and tell us what you're seeing, Supple.
Yeah, so we're still on the HMS Jackdaw. We have taken a lot of damage. As you can see, half the cannons are missing on either side. And I think the mood here is very nervous. We had a rocket boat deliver a carpenter earlier who managed to kill me and 2 other crew. And yeah, that was very unexpected, very early on in the game. And coming around the island about 30 seconds ago, we took 3 full broadsides. So they're holding up for now, but mood is very nervous.
Okay. Why don't we... who are we going to go to next? Control room? Safe is going to be on the first French 8 gun. I would love to hear what you think the SCP-38's plan here is and what you're seeing on the ground.
Well, just before this engagement began, the 8 guns on the French team had the British 8 guns dead to rights. All of their T's were crossed, and they were able to get some nice breaks up and down the side of the ships as they turned. Right now, the ship I'm on, the Renard, has its full battery intact, and they've managed to get a lot of good hits on the 8 guns that are circling around now.
Excellent. All right, why don't we switch over to our last correspondent, who is Warcrime on the the first British ship. And Warcrime, what are you seeing over there?
It looks like this British line is kind of falling apart and overlapping a little bit. The Magpie has only lost 1 cannon. They haven't been a focus of much fire, and they've been putting out some pretty good damage. The shot calls are pretty good, and the communication's good. I like what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So let's get back to the overhead. Let's take a look at some ship HPs and kind of predict the way that this battle seems to be swinging. So right now, if you take a look on my view, which is this overhead view, you can see that these 8 guns are basically in something like a staggered line formation. But the red ships, which are the Krakens 8 guns, they are slowly making their way past the SCP-38's 8 guns, and some of them are making their way to have a decisive finish to the battle of the capital ships. Now, as we look at the top of the screen, you can see under the French fleet that the French capital ship has taken more damage than, that is the one all the way to the left. You can see that white HP rule remaining is lower than the British's capital ship. Also, it seems that they have lost their first 8 gun on the French ship. So what we're seeing overall is a swing towards the British's favor, a swing towards the KRN's favor here. It is not the end of the world, because the capital ships still have relatively similar HPs, and there is a ship on the British team, a 8 gun, one of the mid-sized ships, that is very close to sinking. But I'm not seeing it taking any damage right now. It could be that ship that you see to the top of my screen that has escaped that slugfest that's happening amongst the other 8 guns. If that's the case, that ship will preserve itself, maybe saving the team from catastrophe. Warble,
Right.
what do you think of
Yeah.
all this?
Well, I'm thinking these teams are pretty well matched.
Yeah, I agree.
I've just taken a look at the score board, basically at the tab menu, and they are pretty equally matched. Although, right now the one person on the SCP team, Admiral Spicy Paper, is pulling in front score-wise and also kill-wise. My goodness, Spicy Paper has got 18 kills. Does any correspondent maybe have eyes on Spicy Paper, know where they are?
Sounds like somebody's probably going to be on a flagship, right? You got to imagine.
Any correspondent can find Spicy.
Yeah, if we could find him, I'd love to know. I'm sure he's on one of those flagships, as they have been locked in melee combat nonstop. And as a matter of fact, I would probably love to get a look at that melee combat, get back in there and see what it is that we're looking at. So why don't we get another report from a flagship correspondent? Why don't we get the, let's see, right now I think the French fleet is probably in a little bit more dire straits. So let's hear from Mika, on the French 13 gun.
Go, Mika.
Thank you. As you can see, the French and the British are still locked in melee combat. The French try to back off a bit away to preserve the damage on their ship, but as you can see, the battle still keeps going on strong.
Mika, I saw earlier that there was basically a rocket boat just slamming into the back. Was that hitting your ship or the other ship, so far as you know? It looks like obviously the French ship has taken a lot more damage, and I'm pretty sure that has to do more with the British ship keeping them locked down in melee, while some other ship is hitting them with maybe rocket fire. Do you have eyes on anything like that?
Not anymore now.
Okay.
As you can see, the rocket boat is still getting the 13 gunner on the other side.
Yeah, you're right. I could see from my bird's eye perspective that it is really actually behind the white British flagship, and maybe that's going to be a way for them to close the distance. It looks like the British flagship is missing all of its masts.
Yes,
or most
it has been completely demasted.
Okay, well, that is actually incredible. Because
I think that's carpentry work.
Yeah, it very much could be the case that what we're seeing here is going to be that even though the British flagship is fine HP wise, it may not be able to participate in the rest of this battle. It looks like we do have a sink. Can somebody confirm to me that the French flagship has just sunk? Mika, is the French flagship just sunk by your estimation, or do we have these HPs wrong up here?
No, it has been sunk, confirmed.
It has been sunk. Okay, so that is a huge, huge change here. Now, if we take a look, do we have anybody, a correspondent that's on the red 8-gun that was behind the battle between the flagships?
That'll be me.
All right, Supple, we have you here, Supple. I take it that you and your ship were a crucial factor in this battle being swung in one direction. Is that, what have you seen?
Well, we snuck up behind well, the two intertwined brig to try and give some supporting fire to the British flagship. That rocket boat on the French team came out of nowhere. I didn't see where it came from, but it dealt some massive damage to that flagship, the white flagship. And from what I saw, two of those demastings were from the rocket ship itself, not from the carpenters that were boarding.
Yeah, not surprising there.
Yeah, and I believe we're trying to take a port side turn left to get back into the battle. But it's difficult to see how that flagship is going to get back into the thick of it from here.
Yeah, I mean, there doesn't seem to
us.
be a way. Without sails, it's got no way of returning to the ship, which means that we have to now focus the rest of this battle primarily on the duel between these 3v3 8-guns. So if we can jump back to my view and take a look at the overall tactical positioning here, it looks like the French 8-guns have the British 8-guns at an advantage. They are shooting into the back of these French 8-guns, and the French 8-guns are trying to reposition for dear life.
Every spawn on any 8-gun.
I think that what we're seeing here is probably fear regarding the rocket boats. It is, I think, not a surprise to me, but it may be a surprise to some viewers how consequential these small ships have been throughout this battle. I think while all of these large ships are locking horns with one another, it's these smaller ships that are deciding who gets to win and who gets to lose these cannon duels. And that is very much what we were hoping for out of this league. We're getting to a point now where the British and the French 8-guns are probably just out of each other's range or very, very close. They've gotten a little bit circumspect at the end of this battle here because they're realizing they are at risk of completely sinking if they throw all of their power at one another. And instead, I think what they're going to do is reposition to see if they can't eke out some kind of advantage over one another. What we have right now is all four of the British ships are still active. However, the British 8-guns, all four of the British 8-guns are still active. However, the British 8-guns do seem to have overall slightly less HP, whereas the French ships, there are only 3 French 8-guns that are still active. However, they have relatively high ship HP, which means they can go one-on-one with the enemy ships. All of their cannons firing at the enemy ship, all the enemy ships firing at them, and still come out on top with enough to spare to maybe sweep the rest of this match. The only thing that's going to come to issue is when they have to deal with the 13-gun, or if any boats, like the rocket boats that is behind. Do we have a man on the rearmost French ship? Ooh, we have a sink. We have a sink here. Probably another gunboat.
Yeah, I don't think we do.
Okay,
But
that's okay. That's okay.
No,
Maybe
we
we
don't.
can send Supple over there to get the feel of things, but we don't need to talk to him just yet. I think right now I want to warn the viewers that what you're seeing up at the top of the screen is a score of 7-2. I want you to ignore that. Remember that in the NSL, the most important thing is not that score on the top, because that score includes the rocket boats and the gunboats. But the rocket boats and the gunboats are not determinative of who wins this battle. It is the larger ships that need to be sunk for this battle to conclude. So until every one of the large ships on one team is sunk, that team has not lost. Even if they've lost every single gunboat and rocket boat, which will add to the team's final score. What I will say, however, is that at this point, in terms of the resources that each team can bring to bear, the KRA, KRNs, the Krakens are vastly overpower the French SCP-38 team. The SCP-38 team has 3 8-guns, nothing else. No other rocket boats, no other gunboats. They have nothing left to bring to this battle. They must win it with these 3 8-guns. There is no other options. Whereas the KRA KRNs, they get 4 8-guns, because there is, as you can see, if you're looking at my screen, you can see that there is that last 8-gun all the way to the right of my screen. And you can see it is sneaking up on this battle. It won't be able to catch up to this battle until somebody stops, but it is there. It also, of course, they have the full capital ship. They have their flagship. It cannot move, but to sink it, the enemy would still have to approach it. And if it has cannons left, it will fire back.
On Supple.
All right. Supple, where are you and what are you seeing?
Hello, so I'm on the Derzami right now, the rear ship in the French line, and we're being harassed by a rocket boat to our rear. They're trying to organize a boarding party. There've been a few orders out to get some guys on the water to get on that ship and slow it down at least. There goes one that you just saw, but
They are currently.
They are, yeah.
Unfortunately,
how,
what I'm seeing, and tell me if this is what you're seeing on the ground, they have broken off from the other two ships, and they have put themselves in a very dangerous position. I'm not entirely sure why they've broken off, because the best thing they could do right now is continue to fire on that rearmost British ship. But they've turned off. I guess it's to deal with the rocket or gunboat behind them.
Yes, Merc. And I just witnessed the Carpenter that was deployed by the ship that Supple is on, which was ESC Lowmaster, successfully boarded the pursuing rocket boat and chopped off its mast.
Wow. So that ship is now not moving anywhere. What a power play by, did they say Loho?
Yes.
Wow, Loho. Great job, Loho, serving your team there. If that rocket boat cannot pursue, its rockets do not have that great of a range. That is a wonderful, wonderful Marine action, the kind that can really change the trajectory of this battle. Because again, the French 8 guns have more ship HP than the British 8 guns. They technically are favored to win if they continue to keep this a 3-on-3 battle. But if they allow that other British ship to catch up and join the battle, or if for some reason they get caught by gunboats or anything like that, they could see that advantage diminish rapidly. They've got to find a way to isolate one of these ships, maybe focus fire on one of these 3 enemy British ships that we see here in I believe they are the red ships. They need to focus fire on one of the red ships, and they need to find a way to sink them one at a time. Defeating them in detail is the only way they win at this point, and unfortunately that rearmost French ship is just not keeping up. It wants to deal with the gunboats behind it, and I totally understand that. That may be the right choice, but they need to concentrate fire.
Yeah, and if I may just get a word in on that very brave Carpenter that we
Please do.
that I told about, which was ESC Lowmaster. Right, so Lowmaster has not been very active in our events lately, but I've got a bit of data here, and I'm currently seeing that they've had one round in which they did very well, had a score of over 1,130, but they have a mean score per round of about 470, which is, I would say, at well above average for all players. Definitely, they are like in the top 10% by score, but it's not outstanding performance, I would say. The same for kills. They've got a KD of 1, so that's not that brilliant. But yeah, that's Lowmaster, and I think this really established him as a very good Marine here.
Yeah, I'm going to have the control room go back to my screen very quickly, and I'm just going to flash the scores of everybody as we stand now. The goal here is just so you could see what scores can range like. Top scores we're looking at for the British team of 1,772, whereas for the French team, Admiral Spicy Paper has 2,751 with 29 kills, which is insane, really. Looking at the bottom, don't look at some of the bottom ones because those are our correspondents, but you can see that lower scores tend towards in the 10s, the 30, 40, 50, 90. So that's the range of scores that we can see here. This is a longer game, so you're going to see high scores than you would see in some of the other data that Warble has, where the ships sink faster, so there's just not the ability to get more score. Anyway, let's get back to the battle. Both of these teams have hit the wall. This is where the fighting stops. The ships park and they just fire at one another, and we see who wins and who loses. Unfortunately, right now, I think it is pretty easy to predict the French team is not going to make it out of this situation. Unfortunately, they are fighting 2v3 at the end of this wall here, and their 4th ship, the British 4th ship, is about to rejoin the battle. Warble, what can these guys do to salvage this situation?
Not much, I'm afraid, Mark. The Kraken team still have rocket boats. which are closing in from behind. And as the 8 gunners are parked there, they really have no way of evading the rockets. They can sail at an angle as they like. They can sail as close as they like and just shoot these rockets up their sterns. Although at the moment, the British rocket boat here, the Kraken rocket boat, which is captained by KRN KraKrns, is taking some broadside fire from the French
Link, you
8
can go
gun.
get the other 8 gun. That 13's doing.
Right. And now we see the third French 8 gun coming in, trying to assist, and immediately getting demasted by that rocket boat. So
Wow,
that
not
is
good.
Supple's perspective. Supple, can we hear from you, please?
Yeah, it's not looking good here. We're currently getting boarded by that rocket boat, it appears, getting some point-blank shots, and directly behind us is a carpenter on a rowboat, seems to be heading our way, who just killed 7 boarders in a row with his axe. So far, appears to be holding on. We still have 2 cannons on the port broadside.
Link, look at the. Sorry.
And not much appears to be going in terms of the fire we're receiving from enemy teams. We have the
Supple,
Sentinel
look at the
line.
gunboat to your left.
And if you see the gunboat, the action on the rocket boat now, that seems to be sunk.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
safe
We
now.
still Supple. I think we have something directly behind you. Is that correct?
There
A
was
ship
no,
that's
that-
fire,
yes.
a boat firing directly behind you. A one
There is a
behind,
gunboat,
like
yes.
past the island that you guys have just passed.
Past the island. There
I don't
was
know
a-
if you see it.
That's a
Yeah, you
gunboat,
see it
yeah.
behind you. There is a gunboat parked behind you, shooting in your rear. That's
Oh, I see.
yeah. This is very dangerous. However, again, we have gotten to a point where the French team has more ships. At least for this moment. There are more 8 guns on the French team that are up and firing than there are on the British. The British have lost. They are down to 2 8 guns, a capital ship, their flagship, the 13 gun, and 2 boats left. It's not. I think that the British have the advantage here, but if you take a look, these British ships are not actually focused in a way, like they're not lined up in a way where both of them can shoot the same target, except for one, which is that demasted ship. Obviously, they're going to put a lot of damage to that demasted ship. Probably going to sink at any moment now. I think that demasted ship is priority right now is to just finish off any gunboats or rocket boats that are threatening his fleet. It looks like the French fleet is now basically choosing to close distance with the British 8 guns and see if they can't make a go of getting into range and finishing this fight. I will be. Do we have a boarding action anywhere? Am I mistaken in that we have some kind of?
But it's gone.
Yeah. So we had a boarding action that was on a British ship, I believe. Demast on a British ship. Go to my screen. If we can go to my screen,
You're on.
we just had a demast on the ship. You can see that it is still falling off.
Yes, there's 2 carpenters currently on that British ship. One just died.
Another demast.
That's Saboteur and KRNs, who were both SCP players who have just chopped down both of these masts on that ship.
Unbelievable. So demasting a ship deals tremendous damage to the ship. However, what's most important here is that this ship's maneuverability is gone. And now it is going to be taking damage from the 2 remaining French ships as it sits there and can do nothing to maneuver in any way. These French ships need to get out of that position where that ship can still fire at them. They need to move behind it so that they do not have to take incoming fire from that ship. Are they going to do it? I don't know. But that's what they need to do right now. We are in a situation where these 2 French ships absolutely have the capacity to win this battle if they stick together and they isolate their targets. If they have any kind of situation where there's 2-on-1, they have the chance for victory here. Warble, what do you think?
I would love to hear from that French 8 gun that is currently taking the lead of the 2. I think that's Mika on there. Mika, what are you seeing?
Mika, you're up.
Oh, we may not have Mika.
Audio problems, yeah.
All right. How about anybody else? Do we have anybody on any of those 2?
Ohio, then. Safe.
Safe. Are you on one of those 8 guns?
Yep, I'm on the rear one.
Okay, what are you seeing?
Well, they've been trying to hit a gunboat that is now circled around behind us. It was the one from earlier. They've been trying to prioritize the smaller ships over the 8 guns because the 1 8 gun has been demasted and can barely move, whereas these rocket and the gunboat will pose a big problem due to their higher levels of maneuverability and the incredible amount of damage they can do to ship components such as cannons and masts.
Yeah.
As it currently stands, the gunboat is engaging and is starting to close in, trying to rake along the sides of the ship and damage any more cannons.
Unbelievable, but we have 42 seconds left in this round. Is that correct? Is this
It is,
going to
yeah.
be an all right, well, then it looks like we will have a victory for the British team because they have their capital ship remaining. If this wait. They have to sink. They must sink this 8-gun now. Whichever 8-gun sinks next determines the fate of this battle. I believe that somehow the KRN are going to eke out a victory because their capital ship remains, unless one of these two larger ships goes down in the next 5 seconds. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The KRN squeak by with a victory at an incredibly close game. Unbelievable. Look at those scores. 34,000 to 31,000. That is a very close set of scores. These are very, very powerful teams. I think this bodes extraordinarily well for the future of the NSL if this is the kind of battles that we can produce. Warble, any
I'm
last
very
thoughts?
happy. Well,
I love that battle.
I'm very happy about this whole thing, obviously, and it just really shows that you have to focus not just on fighting well in this case, because both teams, I think we can agree, fought very well and employed all tactics. They had boarders with carpenters, they had rowboats launched, they used all the boats and all the ships to the best of their ability, and had a prolonged boarding action, and they fought valiantly, all of them. But I think it really goes to show that you have to keep your eyes on the objective, which in this case is the capital ships and not the little boats, even if they are annoying, you know. And but it showed that preserving those little boats long enough to make a difference in the final minutes, as the Kraken team managed to do with their boats by keeping them back a bit, really helped them, right? In the beginning, it was the SCP boats who wreaked havoc, but they got sunk too early in that engagement when they engaged a well-ordered Kraken line, I think. That was one deciding factor here, even though it was just a small maneuver of 2 rocket boats in the beginning.
All right, so what I'd like to do now, control room, first of all, I want to thank every correspondent that was here today, guys. Thank you so much for your input, and thank you for showing the audience what it is that was happening on the ground. What I'd like to do, control room, is we'd like to get the admirals in. They're probably going to go into a Discord chat. And we will get them, then drag them into maybe this conversation, because I would like Warble and I to be able to talk to them about what they did, what they saw, and how it went. So that should be, I'm not entirely sure. Let me take a look who those gentlemen would be, and I will introduce them to the audience. So stick around, audience. We do have a little bit more conversation to have here. But wow, what a game. What a game. So, I mean, so close. Paper thin difference between victory and defeat here, and it is all about the gunboats, about the capital ships. I mean, the gunboats played such a huge role in what we saw out there today, more than I ever imagined. All right, so the two people that we are hoping to talk to today, let me go
It's
find.
It's going to be Muffin Top and Barry. Muffin Top's already ready.
Muffin Top and Barry. So we have Muffin Top Scout, who is the fleet admiral for the SCP-38s, and we have Barry, who will be joining us as the fleet admiral for the Krakens, the KRN Krakens. Barry McCockiner.
Let me drag down Muffin first. We'll go to Muffin.
Okay. Yeah, and I'd love to have them both if we can get them both, but we'll talk to them individually as we can get them in here. So, Muffin, can you just say hello to us, just so we know that we can hear you in here and that you have the audio parameters necessary to say hi?
Hello.
Hey, Muffin, thanks for joining us. Muffin,
Hello.
what a battle. So I don't even know if you know who won or lost that battle. Are you aware of how that played out?
I am fairly certain the KRN did take it. I know their
Yes.
13 gun was still up,
That's right.
and
Yes, that's
they
right.
had one 8 gun, I think. Up,
They
and
had, so you guys had an even amount of the large ships, and then if you have an even amount of the large ships, it defaults to who has the capital ship still up.
Yeah.
And Barry had his 13 gun still up, and the Krakens did. So the Krakens do squeak out a victory here in what was an absolutely phenomenal game to watch on our end. That was so unbelievably close. So let's talk to first. I want to talk to Barry. Barry, can you say hello to our audience real quick? Make sure we have your audio in here.
Yeah, hello everybody. Thank you for watching.
Hey. Okay, great.
It was a hectic battle.
Yeah, crazy. So, Barry, you guys won basically on account of the fact that when the timer ran out, your 13 gun was still up because you had an even amount of ships. However, as we saw from our perspective, both of the teams had that second ship that was still up was like on a sliver of health. It really could have gone to anybody. Whoever had sunk that last 8 gun could have squeaked out a victory for themselves or not. But I want to hear from you. What was your strategy? What were you thinking? And what was your team thinking when they came into this battle?
Usually as every plan, nothing goes to plan. we were planning on just forming a fleet. And basically first waiting what the enemy would do, get us close into range, having the 13 gunner a bit more out of range for the enemy fleet, and the 8 gunners a bit closer to focus the 13 gunner, as that's the prime target for us. But yeah, as you saw in the battle, how it happened, it turned in basically a 13v13 gun jousting with the 8 gunners in a different fleet, in a different game entirely. So yeah, from that side of things, it just became so hectic, and we just changed our overall gunnery to just take out as many cannons as we could, because taking out cannons is so important in this league, as the health is so high. Yeah, so it's not easy to sink a ship, so that's why we prioritized the guns and crew at that point. We were really lucky to actually sink the 30 gun. Our 30 gun was battered after this; it was basically useless. But
no mass left, right?
We had no mass left. We had barely any health left, and to start the match off properly, we lost our front gun. Well, pretty much in the beginning of the battle, anyways.
So sorry, Barry. Just make sure you're not double casting in here, because I'm hearing myself a little bit. Just to keep that in mind for the audience. But yeah, I definitely saw it was a rocket boat that took out your KRN at the beginning. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's true. We aren't really experienced with rocket boats, how to boat them, but also how to fight them. So that was a bit unlucky for us. But it's something we can learn from.
Yeah. All right. So let's switch over to Muffin. Muffin, I want to hear a little bit about from your end. What were you guys thinking as you were going into the battle? What was your overall game plan? How did it change as things went? Tell me some of the curveballs and switch ups that you experienced through your strategy.
Yep. So while my plan was a little bit similar to Barry's here, my priority target was that 13 gun. Take it out, and you have a good chance of winning the game. So I had a simple order for the mercenaries. Pile into my 2 rocket boats, and then once we engage their line, charge it. Suicide onto it. Carpenters, do what you can. Do as much melee as you can on their ship. To cause havoc, to give us that edge.
Yeah.
I mean, the Carpenters really did work on both teams today. But I think I have to give it to the SCP Carpenters today. I think they did better overall.
Yeah,
I mean, for example, we watched Loho Master earlier, right? But we also watched some others engaging rocket boats and stuff, and yeah.
Yeah, I told the Mercs that they're going to take all the Carpenter slots, and then I'll throw them against the wall, in a sense.
Now, something that we noticed is, sort of logistically over time, because, the boats are your resource. You get more of them, right? They come, you get more. It seems like I kind of expected that most teams would choose their gunboats first. Shoot from a distance, pepper at the enemy, but you chose a highly aggressive rocket boat attack. It paid off in the beginning, knocking out one of the most important guns on the enemy flagship, but by the mid battle you were fresh out of boats.
Yep.
So that was clearly intentional on your part. You wanted to start the early battle and get an early advantage by throwing those boats at the end, whereas it seemed that the Krakens got a lot more use at the end of playing cleanup with some of those ships. Did you find that at the end of the battle they were really harassing you with some of those smaller boats?
Yeah, that was kind of intentional. I kind of zeroed in with my just telling my gunboats to just like bring down that 13 gun, like spawn in, help the 13 gun melee that was happening, and then but just bring it down. So I kind of was willing to sacrifice the gunboats, and it did kind of bite us towards the end as they were able to come in around us. But, you know, it seemed like they kind of got in a little too close, which allowed us at the time to be, I just sent all non-gunners as boarders just across the board.
I mean, listen, I don't think anybody who watched this can say that one or the other of your strategies didn't pay off because of just how bleeding close it was at the end there, and how just, I mean, the scores were very similar at the end of scores, the total scores. I feel like, what do you think that might have changed it for a win in your favor, Muffin?
I should have committed to the right side of the island when I brought my 13 gun around, because I didn't want a death spiral. So
yes,
I was willing to trade a little bit of health to swing outward and come back in. And I thought I could beat their 13 gun to the left side of that island and kind of do what they did to us.
Yeah.
But I miscalculated. And then once I wanted my 8 guns to hook left and then engage their line, or hook right,
which they did, right? Or hook right. They did hook right. This is the part of the battle where you guys, right before you guys collided and you began that melee action. Is that the boarding action? Okay. Yep.
Yeah, but then it kind of peppered out because the KRN surprised me by turning inwards towards my 8 guns. And so I told them, recommit onto the 8 guns, turn it into an 8 gun fight. The 13 gun and the gunboats will focus on their 13 gun.
Nice. Yeah. So Barry, tell me what you think was the difference between victory and defeat for you guys. Was there any point where you thought, yeah, this is coming together exactly how I wanted it? What do you think is what propelled you to just get that victory where it might have otherwise been a defeat?
I don't think it was like a specific point which really turned the battle for us. But it's maybe strategy-wise, we decided to keep the gunboats at first close to our fleet, to more defend our fleet, which in this case worked perfectly because they decided to go with the aggressive route with the rocket boats, which allowed us to actually engage them with the 8 gunners as well, sinking them quickly, and getting those threats out of the way rather quickly, which I think in the long run saved a lot of health for a lot of our ships as well, because as you all saw, at the end of the battle, it was more surviving than actually battling. And I think it paid off in the end that we, in that way, took care of the rocket boats and gunboats at first.
I agree. I think, yeah. I wonder. I was surprised by how consequential it seemed that the gunboats and rocket boats ended up being in the grand scheme of things. Not as surprised as maybe I could have been, because this was also sort of the point for them to keep coming back and being able. We all know that gunboats and rocket boats are finishing. You know, they're really good at wiping up defeated ships, crippled ships with not a lot of cannons that can fire back on them, because they are so maneuverable and can get such great position. So I was really interested to see 2 very different play styles with those flexible ships. And we really got to see that even though the SCP-38 did not achieve victory here, it's not like they disproved the theory that gunboats and rocket boats aggressive early is detrimental to the overall strategy. In fact, I think it's probably one of the reasons that you guys had such an advantage in the early game, because I do feel like in the early game, you did disrupt the enemy fleet a little bit. You got borders on the enemy fleet. That all spoke to your advantage at the beginning. And then by the end of it, then the late coming KRN gunboats and rocket boats did harass you a little bit, but that was making up for certain amounts. So what we noticed is that in whatever the 8 gun action in the middle, and you mentioned earlier, I think Muffin, you talked about a death spiral. For those of at home, the audience, a death spiral is sort of what you saw from the 8 guns in the latter half of the battle, really at the middle point, which is where all the ships basically circle around each other. So they create a circle where they're just firing at each other. They're just 2 lines making circle, like just rotating around one another. That death spiral tends to be called a death spiral because it's difficult to escape that. Whoever pulls out first is going to show their back to the enemy, and then the enemy is going to get a lot of free damage. At some point, though, I believe the KRN ships did pull out of the death spiral. They did take a little bit of damage, and by the end of the match, it seemed that the SCP-38 ships had more ship HP, but they were getting harassed by those smaller ships. I want to give each of the admirals an opportunity to just give us any other thoughts that you guys had on maybe how the battle went, what you maybe expected out of it compared to what you got. So why don't we start with Muffin? Was there anything unexpected, basically, from what happened today? Based off of your expectations of what the KRN would play like.
Yeah, I came in with thinking that the KRN, for the most part, would outgun us. I mean, that's kind of they do naval a lot more than my regiments, so I expected to potentially lose the long-term gunfight, and I wanted to offset that with a very aggressive getting into melee and trying to trip them up and demasting them, stuff like that. A very unconventional tactic that we haven't really seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to really thank the mercenaries that were with us, X, FRL, all of them. First RM, they played key roles. They were willing to follow my plans, and then they followed orders pretty well in VoIP. They did what they needed to do, and they paid off.
Yeah, wonderful. Barry, same question to you. How do you feel? What was your expectation coming into how the NSL would play, how one of these battles with the different settings and all that would play, and how it ended up going? Was there any major difference between those expectations and reality?
Regarding the gameplay, no. As I said, we trained a bit and with the NSL config as well, and we were aware of the higher ship health, so we knew that taking out guns would be beneficial, or the prime target, not sinking the ships, but first taking out the cannons. That was exactly how we expected it. What we didn't expect was to see a 13-gun v 13-gun jousting. We would expect both fleets to actually protect it, but well, yeah, how the game played out, that's where we landed. That was really nice to see, and I think we did quite well regarding the situation. And I couldn't agree more with Muffintop regarding the Mercs. It's always waiting to see who you're going to get, what their skill level is, what their expertise is. And every single one of them we had to assign them randomly, but they played the part really, really well. And I'm glad to have had all of them.
Wonderful. Warble, any final thoughts? I think we could probably wrap up pretty close to now, but I want to make sure that you've had your say on what you thought today was going to be like and how it ended up turning out.
Well, I didn't have too many preconceptions, really, and I have to say my internet currently isn't that great, so I hope you can hear me well.
We can hear you just fine right now.
Okay, lovely. And so, yeah, I didn't have that many preconceptions, but I am currently wondering, just, thinking of statistics, as I do, is that we will see some player scores that are really outstanding. Like, for example, Spicy Paper of the SCP, right? Who got crazy kills in that 13-gun jousting. And I think if we rely too much on these outstanding performances in the statistics, we might think, oh yeah, they've got that guy who got like 30 kills, they are sure to win, right? But kills don't really count for anything. Points don't really count for anything. If you get your points from sinking little boats, for example, right? So yeah, I'm not sure how much the statistics that the game provides for us really help us here. But I will be very interested to see and to bring you all updates in the coming weeks once we have recurring players in several matches. No, but I have found this a very fascinating battle, and I loved all the little boarding actions going on with the boats, and I think both teams really did a fantastic job in our inaugural game.
Yeah, I have nothing but like excitement for the future of the NSL. If this is what it is going to look like, if this is the kind of battles that we can expect, it is exactly what we were hoping for. The idea that ships might collide with one another, that the strategic outlook of using certain ships at certain points of the game, of how we deploy ships, if there's going to be, one of the things I really want to see is the metagame of a long line of ships going to last this preseason. I'm wondering if breaking off into smaller groups and attacking simultaneously from different directions may be something that we see. Right now, what we saw is these guys tried to keep their groups together even trying to keep the groups together, the capital ships still went apart and did their own thing. And may that be something that influences further strategy in further matches. Overall, this was what I was really, really hoping for from the NSL, and I was delighted by every play here. I want to just give my highest compliments. Oh, sorry, hold on 1 second. Sorry, my highest compliments to Barry and Muffin, and please extend my congratulations to both of your teams for an amazingly fought first battle of the NSL. Guys, thank you so much for all of your work to get everybody here, to sort out all the mercenaries, to command your fleets, and more. And we really look forward to seeing how you guys do in future battles. With that, I'd like to thank all of you viewers who have been watching. I'd like to thank our control room. I'd like to thank Atticus, who's been in the control room director today. I'd like to thank Linknito. I'd like to thank Safe, Supple. I'm sure I'm missing some Mika. Anybody else who was helping us in the control room. And of course, I'd like to thank you, Warble, for joining me so that we both could contribute to the audience's better understanding of these naval battles. And with that, I think we are good to end today. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us, and I hope you really enjoyed this battle.